Recording of. And then hit the pause, the triangle. All right, we're at 6:29, so a couple more seconds and we'll get this meeting going. Few more seconds. And it's officially 6:30 here, so I will call to order the City of Orinoco Planning and Zoning Commission agenda meeting here. We've got at 6:30, we do have tonight two different public hearings, but we will start off with roll call. I am Commissioner Kathy Brandt Rucker, Chair. Commissioner Wendy Phillips, Vice Chair. Present. Commissioner Jim Richards.
Here.
Commissioner Jim Phillips.
Here.
Commissioner Scott Sorensen. Commissioner Colleen Freed, and she did say she was going to be absent. Commissioner John Evans.
Here.
Thank you. And we will also check, we do have, is Bill Carlson on?
Yeah.
Yes, I am here, Chair and Commissioners.
You, Joe Palin. Jason Baker. And then also tonight we have Mary Queensland. Did I say that right? She is the new administrative assistant for Orinoco and is out here helping us this evening with our meeting. So I welcome Mary. Thank you. Next is approval of the agenda for this evening. Does anyone have any changes, additions for the agenda? I have one item to add. If you want to add it as an update for the EDA, I know we've discussed the EDA in the past, but add under old business letter C, update EDA.
Like to add just for an update, for discussion, the sports pads. I think
Okay,
would be something that we should discuss because there's more and more people asking for it.
okay, so under new business,
Yep.
after the monthly building report,
Mhm.
discussion, sports, like sports courts, sports
Sports
pad.
court, there you go. I call it sports pad.
Actually, let's put another one under there too, and I'm just trying to see if I've got it here real quick, which is, the building permit approval for, Herb,
Oh, yeah.
you know, because that one's been bouncing around back and forth, and
Is that under new business?
So letters,
I would almost old business, because we brought up Herbs last month again too.
okay,
So, old
new-
business D,
Yeah,
Herb's permit.
yeah, because he found, yeah.
So what I have for changes would be under new business, adding a letter B that's discussion sports courts.
Mhm.
Under old business, letter C, update on the EDA. And old business, letter D, permit approval. And that was on that herb application.
These will keep.
All right, any other changes? Okay,
You okay, Phil?
Yes.
Do your nose.
all right. All in favor of the agenda as amended?
Do we need a motion?
Oh, a motion, please. Thank
I make a
you.
motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All right, we have a first and second. All in favor of the amended agenda, thank you.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, the agenda has been amended for this evening. Next is approval of minutes, and we do not have any minutes for us. Our packets this evening were delivered in person paper for us. I know there's some people off and out and doing different things, so We did have an agenda that was actually sent in at the end of March. All of our agendas are up and running for the entire year, but it was not sent out in advance, so I do apologize about that. We also do have, for the public hearing, we have the two planning reports that were also physically provided for us. What we do not see here right now are the actual applications. We're not provided.
So that's not acceptable.
Yep.
Right.
So
Not
we'll
even-
have some more discussion.
Not even close.
We need to talk
Yeah.
to Jason about
So
it.
there-
Yeah, that's
more
gonna have
discussion.
detail on everything, so.
Some more discussion on that,
Yes.
probably beyond just the P and Z, so
Right.
we'll. But so there are no minutes to approve for this evening. I am hoping very much with the addition of Mary that we may be able to go back, and we do have some recordings that are posted out there and available for the public, but it would be nice to get written minutes out there as well. But with that, at 6:35, it is now officially 6:35, and as we posted on our public hearing, we are now able to open our first public hearing at 6:35. This is the public hearing to consider a street vacation for unused portion of Second Avenue Northwest, Orinoco, Minnesota, 55960, near 115th Second Avenue Northwest, posted, and this has been posted for 6:35 or shortly thereafter. So I am now opening the public hearing at 6:35. And just so everyone here present is aware, we will open this for public comments if anyone wants to speak for or against the application. We would just ask that you would state your name and address so that Mary can get that for our minutes for the record. And let's go. Is there anyone who would like to speak for or against the application?
Good evening,
Evening.
Bo Annenberger, 210 Second Street Northwest. I live just north of the property with the right of way vacation. I'm totally for the vacation, just like they have done this in the past in the city, including my property as well with the old streets that aren't being used. The only thing I have that I didn't see, I was mailed the notice, but I wasn't mailed the maps, and I see them here in the public handbook. The only thing I didn't see that wasn't noted on here is my gas line is fed from this existing street that is not really a street through the property. So the gas line flows from the street into the south side of my house. So just like every other vacation that the city has done, I would just ask that they vacate it, but with the utility easement as they have in the past with the other ones. So otherwise, I don't see any reason why they shouldn't vacate this. As it only makes sense, because there's not a street there anyway, so.
So with that, I know on our map that we received here for the planner's report, there was an existing sewer line, an existing water line. Is it similarly placed then where the gas line is?
That I'm not sure, the other water and sewer do not go to my property,
Okay,
just the gas line comes from the back of my house straight south through that existing street. So what they've done in the past, we had a street in front of our house too as well that was vacated 5-6 years ago or so. And we didn't have any utilities in ours, but they kept it utility easement anyway, just in case for sewer or future. So I would expect with their property, the shaded section going east to west, there's no reason to keep utility easement in that. The only place there's really needed for utility easement would be the north-south section of that.
thank you.
Otherwise, yeah, makes perfect sense. So, thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to speak for or against the application?
I'll speak for it.
Yeah, if you just want to say your name and address, you can.
Steve Gable, 115 Second Avenue Northwest, Orinoco. We're not asking to vacate the street. The city sewer and water come in from the south. It has nothing to do with the ground that's being discussed. As he said, there's a gas line that runs through there that goes from east to west. Or
South and north.
yeah, south to north. I'm sorry. But there'd be no effect to the water, no effect to the sewer. This ground was given to the city 50 years ago with the idea that they were supposed to maintaining it, and obviously they haven't taken care of it nor maintained it. It was presented to us that this was state ground. We went and discussed this with the state. The state said this should have been rectified 40 years ago. So here we are today.
Do they plow it at all, or they don't do anything with it?
It's grass.
It's our yard.
Oh, okay, cause I'm seeing a street here.
Yeah,
Okay.
that little bit of street that's our,
Everybody since Johansson's and through the last two families have just taken care of it as their yard.
Oh,
We want to unify all of our property into one. And obviously, there's the issue of what would happen to liability as far as that ground goes. And the original contract between the owners of Oak Ridge up there said the city would maintain it and insure it. The last time I asked, they're still looking for the insurance. So you've got that issue on top of who's supposed to be taking care of it.
All right,
And
thank you.
so is the city claiming that they took out insurance on it, but they can't find the policy or the certificate or,
We never got an answer to any of it.
oh, they never answered your question?
Well, we've had a change of personnel. I believe they were working on all these answers.
when you change city managers, I think things just kind of. The previous city manager was giving us direction and we were following her advice and doing the things that were asked of us from her. But as Steve said, this is all grass area with the exception of the paved road right in front of our house that is Second Street Northwest that the city does plow kind of in the winter. But this is all grass area that we've been maintaining and so I think his point is, we're holding the life. I don't think the city's ever held insurance on that portion of property that they have as a right of way, but, is that what you're trying to say, Steve?
There's a question whether it ever was. Yeah. You can't, if the city has claimed all this time that it was the state's property, I don't see how they've insured it, and neither does the state.
so
All right.
can I just ask, what did the previous city administrator suggest that you guys do that you were working on?
Vacate it and unify them,
Vacate it and what?
and then unify our lots, be done with it.
Yeah. And she's the one that said it was in the books as being the state of Minnesota's right of way
And we went,
to the state of Minnesota.
well, we went to the county first, and they said, this can't be, go talk to the state. We went to the state said, this better not be. And we went to, the title company, and they said this can't be either.
Okay.
And.
So you're here tonight.
Past owners,
There we go.
in the past owners have received, varying answers over the years as to what's going on.
It sounds like with all the research that's gone into here, and we'll get to the planner's report here soon too from Bill. But sounds like we might have found an answer of whose it is, and now we're trying to do something, and that's your request, is to do something with this answer and try and figure out a way for you guys to have a clean answer one way or the other with the.
Right, and we've been working on it for a little over a year now. So
It's been a while,
glad to
so
be here tonight.
thank you for coming this
Yeah.
evening. All right. And I'm assuming this is Steve, I'm assuming you're Kathy?
Kathy, yes.
Okay, very good. Any other questions? These are the applicants here, or is there anyone else who would like to speak for or against the application this evening? Now, I do have to, for a public hearing, say that 3 times. I believe we have hit all 3. Even in an empty room, I still have to ask 3 times. So what I will do now is we will close the public hearing and move into our staff report for this application. And we do have out in Zoom land here, we've got Phil Carlson, who is our planner with our vendor for the city. And we do have a planner's report. Now, Phil, we do not have copies of the application. All we did receive for this public hearing was your planner staff report. And we just received it tonight. So we are
Okay.
gonna, unfortunately, slowly, so everyone does get a chance to understand the different facets of it.
Okay, so, Madam Chair and Commissioners, it's been described here, and I think you have in your packet in my report, map of the area, one that shows, several blocks around the property, and then one that's a close-up of the property on the next page. It's an L-shaped piece of right-of-way, 33 feet wide, that is the extension of, Second Avenue, going north-south and then angling to the east, where it abuts two properties to the north. And the request was to vacate the entire L-shaped piece. And in discussing with the city engineer, we suggest that the southern portion of that be retained as right-of-way and vacate only that northern shorter L-shaped piece. That way we would keep the existing water and sewer line in the right of way. This would still allow the Gables to combine their properties and not be separated by this right of way. And I think I understood the comments earlier on that there are gas lines in this right of way as well. And so a utility easement should be maintained in that. Did I understand that correctly?
I'll double check. So in the grassy area you mow, that is the area where there is also a gas line going through there someplace. So yes, that's correct, Bill. That's what I.
Okay.
Houses are through our front yard and into that L shape.
Okay,
I believe just barely, but it is.
okay, thank you.
So this makes, as my report indicates, this makes perfect sense. This right of way is only 33 feet wide, where a typical right of way is 66. So it really couldn't be used for a street. And of course, Second Avenue dead ends here, and it abuts two properties with houses to the north here. So even if there was a desire to put a street in this right of way, you'd be running right into two homes. So it doesn't make sense. It's always a good idea to keep on to right of way, to keep hold of it, unless there's a good reason to let go of it. But here there is no good reason to keep hold of it. It really can't be used as a street, as in other parts of town where there's vacant right of way that hasn't been opened with streets. We might want to keep that so that there could be future streets and development on smaller lots. That's not the case here. So we do recommend that you vacate it, but only that northern 125 feet. And I would add then that we would maintain a drainage and utility easement only, so that that gas line can be protected as well.
When you said the shorter half of the L, there's a dotted line that there is? Are you saying from that point north? Is that what you're saying, Phil?
Well, you can see it better on a color copy. I don't know if you have black and white or
I
color
only have
copy.
it black and white, and it's pretty.
Oh, that's a shame. Well, okay. In the black and white, in the north half of that north-south L, you might be able to make out a dimension that says 125 feet plus or minus, and
Right.
it goes down about halfway.
Yep.
And so from that point south, we would want to maintain the right of way. And then off to the right, there's, well, to the left, it says requested right of way vacation, and that goes on the whole L. Off to the right is a label that says recommended right of way vacation. You can just barely see some arrows. Again, in the in the colored version, they were much easier to see, but one points up to the upper right corner and the other one points down to the left, but only about halfway down that right of way, if you can make it out in the black and white copy. And so that's what we're saying, that there's a stretch here that we would want to maintain, and then that northern half of the L could be vacated. But if you do choose to take this recommendation, add to the recommendation that one of the conditions be that you maintain a drainage and utility easement over it, so that we could protect existing lines that are in it. And it should be noted that the right-of-way really does separate this into two separate parcels that the Gables own. Actually, they own a third parcel as well. But just maintaining an easement, the property would revert back to full ownership by them, just with an easement over it. And they could combine these properties if they wanted to, as they've indicated they want to, into one property.
Thank you, Phil. So at this point, we do have the staff report. And just so you're all aware, we are advisory body that we do vote on, do a public hearing, and determine a recommendation that does go to the city council meetings. And with that, we do need a motion in order to continue on our discussion. Is there a motion?
Do you need a motion to continue discussion?
I was hoping we were gonna go through the report line by line before we got to that.
Okay,
I feel like I need, because we just received
Yeah,
the.
this is
Let's do
quick,
that.
and
I
we
need
need to
to-
think
I
about
need
no,
to
that.
be-
and that's fine. Let's do
Yeah,
that then.
to,
So are you guys okay if I read out loud?
Yes,
I
please.
will read. So on the Stantec report, we did get introduction. The Gables own 3 lots on either side of the right of way for Second Avenue Northwest and are requesting the city vacate a portion of that right of way. Their home is on the lot on the west side of Second Avenue Northwest. The 2 lots on the east side are vacant. Their application says the right of way is not used and the owners have maintained it for 40 years. The city should be hesitant to vacate street right away where future development is possible. In this case, the right of way is 33 feet wide, whereas a typical street right of way is 66 feet side. I think that should be wide.
Mhm.
So this is only half the typical width. Also, the lots immediately north of the right of way being vacated are both developed with homes, so a through street connecting to this segment of Second Avenue Northwest right of way to the north would be difficult without condemning property and is highly unlikely. The basic request is reasonable and appropriate, but there are utility lines in the right of way, so the full request should not be granted. And I'm on page 2. As illustrated below, there is a sewer force main and a water line in the right of way serving the Gable property. There are also electric lines on the east side of the right of way. On the attached water service plan, the left side, option 1 shows what was built in the right of way. We suggest that the southern portion of the right of way be retained, but the northern approximately 125 feet could be vacated. This arrangement would retain the Gables landscaping within the portion to be vacated. Recommendation coming from the planning report. We recommend that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend to the City Council approval of the vacation requested for a portion of the right-of-way of Second Avenue Northwest, but only the northern 125 feet of that right-of-way in the vicinity of the Gable properties. The applicants and their surveyor will need to prepare a new exhibit and new legal description of the easement consistent with this recommendation. And I believe the other piece that would be added then to that would be also, according to Phil, also add to maintain a drainage and utility easement within the property being vacated.
And if I may, Madam Chair and Commissioners, there was a reference in my report to a water service plan option 1. And that was an engineering drawing that had been prepared some years ago that showed how water service would get to this property. And on that graphic, if you had gotten the whole attachment, it showed two options. And just to be clear that one of them was actually built and the other wasn't. So it was option one on the left side that is essentially what has been built with the water service in that lower portion of the right of way.
And we do have a third page that is the two maps, I believe, but they're also
Okay, you do have that. Good. Okay.
a little more difficult to
You
read.
can't even see.
Yeah,
ours.
yeah.
Can't even make out what they are.
But on the second page and the first page, there are also maps. The second page is the one that had, just so everybody can see it, make sure you guys are all seeing too, these little, there's a
Yeah,
small
the
dotted
dotted
line, and it looks like on this map for me, the dotted line, you guys have some shrubs or there's some bushes or something that's been planted there.
Just.
And the way the dotted line is drawn, it looks like that side that has the shrubs and the bushes would be on the part that's being vacated. So the dotted line would be to the south of that.
Right.
We don't want the street. We don't want the sewer line, we don't want any of that. All we want is from that bushes down in the L.
And yes, again, Madam Chair and Commissioners, that is the intent, and that's our understanding as well, that their bushes, their landscaping would be in the portion to be vacated. And the dotted lines that you're seeing on the map are the location of the existing sewer and water lines. There's one that's lighter colored, that's the sewer line, and there's a darker dashed line that maybe you can't see very well in the black and white copy, that is the existing water line. But that's what those show, more or less in the center of the right of way.
And it looks, we do see on our black and white copy a very white line that says Second Avenue. And right next to that line are the two dotted lines. That would be the existing sewer
Yes.
line and existing water line. In our copies, we do see it labeled existing sewer and existing water. So that
Yeah.
part is clear.
Okay.
It's just that 125 and the plus minus is very difficult to read on the copies.
And so if I'm understanding correctly, that you are in agreement with the recommendation that just from your shrubs
Yeah.
being vacated up in the L that goes this direction with the water and sewer down here, you don't want that portion vacated, just this portion
Right.
which they are recommending, which the city planner is recommending.
And
Very
is
good.
that, is that your property line? It stops at the end of your property line to the north?
I think so,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yeah, that's
That-
correct.
This is their property line.
Yeah,
Yep.
okay, yeah, I just wanted
Yep,
to
it runs-
verify that it was, okay,
This,
It ends in his backyard.
yeah,
Well,
okay,
It's all right, yep.
it turns right, ends right over there.
yeah.
The northern line of the vacated right of way would be the.
Bumps right up to
property
yours
line.
there.
Between mine and theirs, yep.
Yep. So, and then the only other thing I had in my notes was to maintain a drainage and utility easement within the property being vacated. So because there is that gas line or whatever other utilities might be in there to make sure that's.
You know, on this one, we still need to have a surveyor needs to prepare a new exhibit, a new legal description of the easement consistent with this recommendation. I would like to see that one, so that we have that one, so we can look at everything
Do you need
complete
that
on it.
before your city council meeting?
Well,
I would
that's-
say so, yes.
And
Because once it goes to council, it goes with the full recommendation here, okay, not a partial recommendation, okay? So we need to have everything that's complete here before we would pass it along.
That's no problem, just as long as we know what we need to do.
so there is, I know if we're gonna try and get you into the next council meeting, there's a fairly quick turnaround on that.
I would say bring this into June, we're not gonna have time to
No,
bring it
we
in.
can have this done by then.
what is the date of the city council meeting?
Well, it's not that, it's we need to have it at the next P and Z meeting, it's not the council meeting. We need to bring that back and so we can see what it is.
What's
Yeah.
P&G, can I ask?
The
P&Z.
planning and zoning.
Planning and zoning this meeting.
Oh, I wished I'd have known that, because I could have had it done for this meeting.
Mhm.
The
Well, I
city has
can't-
never required that in previous
Well,
lot vacations.
I'm sorry, but there's been some lot vacations that have not been approved. So you thinking that everything gets approved by the city, the answer is no. We had one vacation that there was next to the Presbyterian Church that was rejected for sure. So saying that everything has been done that way with the city is not true.
It has been in the past, though.
Well, it depends, I mean, this has kind of been a Wild West in the past too, okay? And we're looking at things a little bit differently in what we're trying to
I
do.
think right now what we're trying to do though is just make sure this
Yeah,
one application.
So this one we want to.
So let's,
I appreciate that. So are you saying that I do need to get this?
Yeah, and then get it to us and again, we didn't get this until just when we walked in the door.
Okay, I've prepared everything months.
Yeah, and that's.
Oh, I-
it's
we're-
not-
It's not a reflection on you.
Not at all.
It's for us. and
It's
what-
something that we have been looking at doing for 2 years now, and it just keeps getting pushed further and further. And it's hard for us to know timelines and the expectations, because we will meet them, we will exceed them, but we gotta know what the
Yeah.
game
Well, no,
is.
and that's
We have
just,
till June for another planning and meeting, and then a city council.
yeah, the city council will come after that, okay, the same way it is. But I'm sorry, that's what we need to do.
Also, too, when we left the state, we had a handshake agreement with them that we'd get this resolved. I don't think I think in their case, we'd be looking at overtime right now if this was a ballgame.
Well, then it's overtime.
Yeah,
Okay?
I mean, we do.
I'm sorry, you can say that you had a handshake with the state and I'm sorry, but that's great for you, but it isn't for us. Because we need to document everything that there is before we turn around and send it out.
So in the meantime, then,
with what we've got though right now is we do have to talk about the application that's in front of us.
Yep.
Versus the conversations so what we have is, you're thinking to put in the recommendation would be that they should have the new exhibit and the legal description prepared.
Right,
Now, I know,
which is what's recommended here.
yep, and what Phil's recommendation is the applicants and their surveyor will need to prepare a new exhibit and new legal description, which sounds like they agree to, of the easement consistent with this recommendation.
Right.
So they would.
after.
Well, in order to be approved by the city, that would have to be done by the time the next council meeting.
Right.
I think we could I would feel comfortable forwarding this to council as a recommendation to approve as long as that has been completed and is attached.
Well, I would like to have it done first, honestly, okay? Because when we go to council, we want to have everything that's there to do it correctly.
And you would have that
Yeah.
there. If it's not there, then you can't take an action on
Yeah,
it.
because I think she's saying, okay, we could make a recommendation, but
Has to
the
be.
survey has to be completed for the council to look at and review.
So how
That's
soon
one
can
of
you
our
have that
conditions.
done?
Yeah, the council's
They were
next
very
week.
Responsive.
Yeah,
They were very good, because I called these guys at the last minute, because this was put on me at the last minute from you guys, so I called them up and they were on it like yesterday, and they will do that again.
Mhm.
But I want to go do it, and then I want to know that I've completed what my job is, so I can
Right.
go on with,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and this, it's not your fault
no.
that it's
Right.
sitting the way it is.
And we've got a lot of history. We're just trying to make sure we're doing everything by the book because
And
we
we
want
can-
everybody treated
We
fairly.
completely understand that, but as new residents of two and a half years now, this has been a long process, and I get it, there's a lot of codes and things you have to go through, but it's kind of discouraging as a new resident to have to, we've done a lot of things to bring ourselves into compliance with the community, and it's
I
expensive.
appreciate that and understand the feedback on the code because that is something we have all worked with and agree.
Okay.
Our code is tedious and we are actually right now looking to revise and rewrite hundreds of pages.
I don't envy any of you. for
So
that.
yes, so if you stick around till later in our meeting, we will talk about that. So if you are interested in, we've got a steering committee, so
No, thank you, but I do appreciate the recommendation for
Alright.
me to have, if I can bring it by next city council, that it will be looked at that meeting. I would appreciate that.
So I appreciate your feedback on your timing and hopefully we can come to a discussion up here and
And if I may, Madam Chair, Commissioners, it was my intent that the recommendation was clear enough as to what would be vacated, and that, yes, it would simply be taken to the next council meeting with that revised easement prepared. The Planning and Zoning Commission certainly can, if they want to see that at a future meeting, could, but in my mind, the intent of the P and Z recommendation is clear enough that it could go directly to council, as long as the Gables can then prepare that easement for the council meeting.
So, yeah, so
maybe that's not a decisioning, it's a paperwork to
right.
get done.
So, I mean, I would, put a motion forward that we recommend recommend this vacancy if the legal description is ready, or, I shouldn't say if it's ready. I would make a motion that we recommend approving this and that it go to council and there would be an appropriate legal description based on what we're seeing here.
Do you also want, Bill had said,
To
to
maintain
prepare
drainage.
a new
Mhm.
exhibit and new legal description?
Yeah.
So two things really.
So I would say based on Phil's recommendation.
Okay,
I
so
would-
take the words from there.
Yes, yes. I would take his recommendation and use that as our recommendation for approval.
That's gonna require a second before we can have discussion, so I second the motion. Do we need to add the language? Do we need to amend the motion to add the language about maintaining drainage and utility easement
Yes,
into that as well?
yes, I think so.
You accept the amendment?
Jim?
Well, we will,
What's that?
yeah, we need to have a second to the amendment.
I'll second that.
So then we need to have discussion about the amendment.
I agree.
And if
Yeah,
there's
we
no
add that to it,
discussion,
yeah.
then we'll vote on the amendment.
So- We have an amended motion on the floor. If I've caught this all right, I will read this. We, as the Planning and Zoning Commission, would recommend to the city council that they approve the vacation requested for a portion of the right-of-way of Second Avenue Northwest, but only the northern 125 feet of that right-of-way in the vicinity of the Gable properties. The applicants and their surveyor will need to prepare a new exhibit and a new legal description of the easement consistent with this recommendation. Additionally, they would also need to maintain a drainage and utility easement within the property being vacated.
And I'd say prior to city council
Yes,
meeting.
Prior to city council approval, final approval.
Will that be forwarded to me so I can send it on to my person so he knows your specifics?
we can get you a copy of this.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll be contacting him tomorrow, so if you could.
Yes,
Yeah, we can get
We
you a
can-
copy of this exact one.
yes,
Well, I've got this, but it's
Oh.
the additional language I want to have for him.
Oh. okay.
yes. Does that sound correct, what I read? Yes. Any more discussion? Or I'll call for the vote. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries as a recommendation to city council. We'll make you a copy here. And with that, they meet coming up here shortly, so you'll want to get that
What is
copy.
the date on that?
The 21st.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
It's 20,
It's always the same night as
they're Tuesday.
my meeting in Rochester.
Right. Thank you. All right, on to our next public hearing.
Thank you so much. Mr. and Mrs. Gable.
Thank you.
you.
You're
Appreciate
welcome.
it.
Our next public hearing, we will open at 7:09 PM. This is a public hearing to consider conditional use permit for 309 12th Lane Southwest Orinoco. And with that, again, we do have the planning report for that, but we did not receive copies of the application or anything to go with that. We will read through the planning report as I did before. And with that, the Sarah and John Wagner are requesting approval of a conditional use permit for the construction of a detached residential accessory structure for a home
That's
occupation.
not correct. There was an addended version. We are not building.
So the copy we got here is for the accessory structure. Okay.
And I was told by Renee, she sent an updated version.
Yeah, Madam Chair, yes, there was a change in the request at the last minute, and I did submit then a revised report that eliminates the request for an accessory structure. It's only a request for a home occupation conditional use permit.
There is a second page here that says conditional use permit. It says accessory structure and home occupation, but then it says discussion around home occupation. Is this home occupation the addendum to the original? Bill, on page 2, under
Well,
discuss.
I have my copy that I printed from my report, so I may not have exactly what you're looking at there.
Ours is
But
dated
yes,
May.
I did submit a report based on the initial application, and then, like I say, within having completed that and submitted it to Renee, then the Wagners amended their request and said, no, we don't want the accessory structure, just the home occupation. And so I prepared a revised report, and I don't know if you have that revised report.
We do not.
I'm wondering if the revised report, did the home occupation, so I've got a heading, discussion in bold, and then underneath it, home occupation underlined. Is that what would have been resubmitted, Phil?
No. That discussion and that heading was in both versions of the report. What the revised report would be, it would say, it would look very similar to what I think you have, would be planning report dated May 9th, but the request would simply say conditional use permit dash home occupation.
Well, that's,
That's what the first page says.
yep, the request
The
says
request
conditional
says
use
that.
permit dash home occupation.
We're using an existing structure instead of adding
Oh,
an
then-
accessory building.
Okay.
So that
Right.
was adjustment.
So Phil, between the
Yes.
first that we have that we're looking at and the second version that you sent where you just then omitted the accessory structure information, did the home occupation information change?
No, I believe that is all the same.
So if I read the discussion on home occupation, you've got your revised version that we do not have. You can follow along and tell me if there's anything that's different.
Okay,
Well, and let me ask you this, Bill, in the introduction, what does your report, how does your report begin? In
okay,
the,
mine says introduction, Sarah and John Wagner are requesting approval of a conditional use permit, CUP, for a home occupation for their property at 309 12th Lane Southwest in order to operate Sistine Boutique and online clothing order fulfillment business.
I have it in my email. If you want me to send it to you, you can print it, but.
Yes. Bill, when did that go to Renee?
Like a week ago.
Well, I would have gotten the report, the initial report to her last week. And then very soon after that, I'm sorry, I don't remember when, she said, the Wagners have modified their request, and so I quickly turned around and sent a new report.
5-2, it was updated.
On 5.2.
Okay, thank you. Do you suppose we could get that email to one of you here on council so we could take a pause for 5-minute break? And
We can't get to the printer. But yeah, but I don't have the access to the printer. I can get in the office, but I don't have access to the printer.
Oh,
All right,
You can email it to me, I'll run home and print you a few copies and run right back.
I could run over to the fire hall and print it too quick.
Let's print
this
it.
is crazy.
This is
Yeah, let's-
crazy.
let's-
I
we
do
gotta-
apologize about this, but we will have an official pause if everybody's okay. We're gonna take a break for a few minutes. I'm gonna get us hard copies of the most recent. Phil, can
So we're
you?
gonna pause. Do you
Yep.
need to pause the public hearing?
7:50, we are going to call everything back to order here. We are in the middle of our public hearing. We now have hard copies of the report. Phil, I'm not sure if you're still there or if
I
he's
don't
dropped off. We
think he
may have
is.
lost him, but I will read, also dated May 9th, another planning report. This one also from Phil Carlson and Will Hutchings, both working for our vendor. Applicant John and Sarah Wagner. Introduction. Sarah and John Wagner are requesting approval of a conditional use permit, CUP, a home occupation CUP for their property at 309 12th Lane Southwest in order to operate Sistine Boutique, an online clothing order fulfillment business. Adjacent uses are single unit dwelling zoned R1 to the north, east, south, and west. The South Branch Middle Fork of Zumbro River runs through the southern part of the property. The lot straddles the river. A home occupation is defined as an occupation which is customarily and traditionally conducted within a dwelling by its occupants and is clearly incidental and secondary to the principal use of the dwelling. Next page. The property is zoned R1 residential. A home occupation may be approved and permitted as a conditional use, provided standards outlined in Orinoco's Code Section 151.062 are met, which is excerpt at the end of this report. Discussion, home occupation. Regulation standards for home occupations are meant to minimize any external impacts of a business such as parking, deliveries, noise, light, signage, or other activities that are typically not compatible with a residential neighborhood. The request is evaluated according to standards contained within the Orinoco Code. Incidental and secondary, the business needs to be secondary to the primary use of the residence as a home. In this case, the applicant would maintain inventory for order fulfillment within the existing home and accessory structures. According to the applicant, business operations will be incidental and secondary to the home. Uses. The code lists typical uses involved with home occupations. Online order fulfillment is not specifically listed, but the applicants believe the scope of the operation are consistent with other typical home occupations. Floor area. The uses cannot occupy more than 25% of the floor area of the home. According to county property records, the area of the house is 4,264 square feet. In addition to the proposed detached accessory structure, and I think that would be an error because there is no proposed attached accessory structure.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna make a note that I think that would be an error.
And then it would start at, there is a 725 square foot detached garage.
Yeah, so
Is that
according to the
correct, Sarah? Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
According to county property records, the area of the house is 4,264 square feet. There is a 728 square foot detached garage and a 288 square foot shed on this site for a total of 5,280 square feet of existing structures. The home occupation therefore cannot occupy more than 1,320 square feet of the home or other structures. Materials used. No noxious, combustible, or explosive materials can be used, and we presume that the businesses involved here do not make use of such materials, at least not in quantities that would pose a hazard. Parking. No parking is allowed in the front of the house except the driveway, and no new pavement is allowed to be constructed for the business. Alternations, the home occupation may not involve substantial interior or exterior.
The alteration.
I think it should be alterations.
Mhm.
And so that section title and then that one word should be alteration, not
Mhm.
alternations. All right. Outside storage. No outside storage of materials or equipment is allowed, and none are anticipated for the proposed home occupation. Signage. A sign may be permitted as long as it is no more than 4 square feet. Employees. Only the resident owner and one other person may conduct the business. Trucks. Truck traffic is limited to no more than 6 a day and may not include trucks with 3 or more axles. According to the applicant, no large vehicles will be used for delivery, and 10 or less deliveries are expected per week, which is within the code allowance. Residency. The home occupation may only be operated as long as the owner continues to reside there. The permit does not transfer to a new owner or tenant. Conclusion and recommendation. This is coming from our zoning support. So we recommend that the Planning and Zoning Commission recommend approval of the conditional use permit for the home occupation at 309 12th Lane Southwest as described in the application from John and Sarah Wagner and as modified in their email of 5/1/2024, stating they will not be building a new accessory structure with the following conditions and findings of fact. 1, condition for approval, home occupation. Condition 1 is John and Sarah Wagner have applied for a conditional use permit for a home occupation at 309 12th Lane Southwest to operate online apparel order fulfillment company. No other businesses will be allowed without a new or amended conditional use permit. 2, I'm on the next page. Before issuing the permit, the applicant will verify the total square footage dedicated for customary business operations and that the portion to be used for the business will not exceed 25% of the total area, with a sketch or floor plan to scale indicating the area to be used for the business. 3, the applicant will verify that all other conditions relating to home occupations in section 151.062 of the Orinoco zoning code will be met. Findings of fact for approval, home occupation. Finding of fact 1, John and Sarah Wagner have applied for a conditional use permit for a home occupation at 309 12th Lane Southwest to operate online apparel order fulfillment company under the business name Sistine Boutique. 2, home occupations are regulated under section 151.062 of the Orinoco zoning code. 3, the applicant has stated that no exterior or interior modifications will be made to the structure. 4, the applicant will verify that the business will comply with all standards in section 151.062 before the permit is issued. Then it does go on, should denial. A conditional use is presumed to be a permitted use to which reasonable conditions may be attached. Therefore, denying a conditional use would be appropriate only if there were unusual or extreme characteristics or circumstances involved. That does not appear to be the case with this application. The Planning and Zoning Commission can add or modify conditions that they feel are appropriate to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the community and the residential character of this area, but we do not recommend outright denial. Then it does go into 60-day deadline. The application was received on March 11th, 2024. The 60-day deadline for final action by the City Council is May 11th, 2024, unless extended in writing by the city before then another 60 days as allowed by state statute 1599. Then it does go into home occupation 151.062. And it does have that section of the code inserted here for us that talks about home occupations. And there are A, B with a number of different subheadings under there all the way through. So thank you for bearing with me as I read all of that. I appreciate that, and I appreciate getting the information here. With that, and I did recognize in the original one we had gotten, I had seen that information about the date too. That was one thing of concern that we'll want to talk about too.
Yes, that was something.
But with that, moving back to our agenda, we have read that. We do not have Phil currently online with us. His phone may not have survived. So we do not have his assistance with this particular application, but we have his second planning report. Let's close the public hearing with that. I do need to call 3 times though, if we have anyone present that would like to speak for or against the application. So is there anyone present that would like to speak for or against the application?
Sarah Wagner, 309 12th Lane Southwest, Orinoco. The only statement I would say is under the employee section on page 3. It says, only the resident owner and one other person may conduct the business, and our business is formed with 3 individuals. All 3 of us don't work together every day, but there are times when all 3 of us are working in the same place. The other 2 reside in different towns. One lives in Plainview and one lives in Pine Island. So for the business part of fulfilling orders, it's most likely only myself and one other person, but there may be times when all 3 of us would be working together.
Okay,
That is all.
noted. Thank you.
Yeah.
With that, I do still have to go through the whole. Is there anyone present who would like to speak for or against the application? Is that 2 or am I 3?
That was 3.
So with that, I will close the public hearing at 7:41. Thank you for bearing with us and all of that.
And so we can move in discussion. Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the conditional use permit for John and Sarah Wagner at 309 12th Lane Southwest.
I have second.
Home occupation.
Thank you. We do have that on the floor.
And so I have a question with Sarah being so forthright. I appreciate your transparency, believe me. With only the resident owner and one other person may conduct the business. Is there something that we are going to need to request of Sarah to put forth so that this whole thing, if with the conditions of use are being met? Is there something that we need to do, or do we just need to make a note of that? Or is that something that needs to be taken care of down the road after we've issued this conditional use permit? Because as Sarah has clearly stated, that the possibility of 3 people being on site at one time is going to be rare.
Very minimal.
And if she believes that that is an occurrence that is going to take place, then is there something that needs to be done in addition to this application, or how would that be addressed?
Well, that's
Or is that
gonna
something
be
that?
the exception and not the norm, right?
Right.
Yeah. They are my sister-in-laws also, so
Well,
our kids
family.
hang out
There you go,
together.
they're family.
So I could
You
just say
could be-
that's
you could
only
be
when.
Yeah.
Giving them
Yeah.
a tour of the business,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But we do appreciate you.
But I don't, yeah, I
Yeah.
don't want it to come forward and all of a sudden you're like, hey,
No.
you told me it was you and one other person.
No, and we want to be as transparent with everything we're doing here as well.
Absolutely.
So,
And that's the only reason I'm asking the question, is to protect you and your
Yes.
business as we're moving
Exactly.
forward.
Yes.
So does anybody believe that there's anything we need to do at this moment? We can move it forward. And if this becomes something that Sarah knows will be an issue for her, then it's incumbent upon her to speak with the office and find out if there's anything that needs to be done, or.
I guess I see it as the exception. I don't know if we need to do
Huh.
anything with that.
That's the answer I was hoping to hear.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
I
I-
really don't.
I
don't
just,
think
I
it
just
is.
felt like the question needed to be asked.
Right, cause it's not like it's a manufacturing business where you're gonna have, more than you and one of the other owners
You're
there
not-
every single day doing stuff.
You're not assembling stuff, you're
Right.
not, I know there've been fire extinguisher businesses where they've got multiple people on site.
Right. And beauty shops,
Yes.
I mean, we see that too.
So parking isn't necessarily
Right.
an issue if you,
I don't
okay.
see an issue.
No, I don't see an issue either, that there is. The only thing we would probably do if there got to be an issue would be able to put a variance that there would be with that.
Mhm.
That's
You
what I
know,
was
which would be a
thinking.
simple way to do it,
Which would
but
be a
I
very
don't, I don't see
simple
it
fix.
as being an issue that's along with that.
Yeah.
I really don't.
Yeah.
okay.
I have one question for
Yeah.
you though, okay? If this was originally brought, what was it, March 11th? Okay, what happened?
I have no idea.
You know, I mean, it's like we're at the 60-day point and
we got
we
this
never, we
this
just got it.
Yeah.
On May first, when they sent me the plan and I responded with, that's not what we'd like to do anymore. That was the first conversation I've had with anyone since
Wow.
then.
So,
Okay.
and put in your.
To be honest with you, the conditional use permit was found by my husband because we asked people within City Hall what we needed to do to be clear
Uh-huh.
for an at-home business and no one could tell us.
So when did
Who
you,
did,
so
who did
you,
you talk to?
We ended up working with Renee mostly, and Renee would get back to us, but it would take quite a while to hear back from her. Renee Weil, yes,
Okay.
which she's been great. And been
No.
able to meet us face to face, but she seems very overwhelmed and seems like,
Yeah, and again, it's one of those things that we don't like to wait till the 60th day.
Yeah.
That there is, that
Right.
you're looking at, and it's that before it even comes to council,
right.
which is past the 60 days, and that's not
Well,
the right way
so,
to work it, so.
yeah, and originally in March, when we had submitted this, we thought we could build a building. Cause we're currently at 589A Lake Shady Ave. And then once we knew we weren't coming into this until May, that's not enough turnaround time for us to build a building. Cause originally we just wanted a building for storage so we can make it clean cut, nice, but it still wouldn't have been a business.
Mhm.
Like no one would have came on the property. It was just building another building, so.
Yeah.
We'll make do with what we have.
so sometime prior to March 11th, you guys contacted the city. Like
Like,
to figure out what you needed to do, but at some point,
I
your
would say
husband,
November, probably.
okay,
And it was like, basically what it came down to, from my opinion of the situation, which maybe other people's would feel differently, but how I viewed it was like, basically, here's all of our codes, you can figure out which one suits you. And this is the one that my husband and I stumbled upon that seemed like it was the best fit. Whether it's the absolute correct fit, I have no idea because this is not in my realm, but it seems like it covers the grounds for what we're trying to do.
well, we thank you and your husband for
Yeah, I think you did well.
navigating through the codes,
Yeah,
which we know is cumbersome. And
Yeah.
we are working to resolve that in, as far as government future, near future for a government can run really slow, but hopefully we'll get this.
yeah.
Yeah, it'll get better.
So we do
Okay, so-
appreciate you
Yeah.
submitting the application
And I have
on
a
March
question.
11th. Yes.
Because we don't want to delay Sarah and John and their business any further. Is there a step that Sarah needs to take to extend this beyond May 11th?
Well, I
The
think
city
that
needs
might
to
get
do that.
into another one. We'll just turn around.
Can
and
we
we'll just-
contact the city and tell them, or how is that gonna be
I think
handled?
what we
Because
need
if we
to,
can't, so we wouldn't be approved until June, and that's
No,
when.
no,
no,
you would be on
We've got one
It's
coming up
gonna
on the
be May
21st.
21st.
Okay, but it's gonna be after the 60 days, which is
Yeah,
on
this,
the 11th.
this
So,
expires May
the
11th.
way it's right now, today being May 9th,
Yes.
we have to have this approved by city council by May 11th, unless we have the city contact you in writing. That would allow us to put it on their regularly scheduled meeting,
Okay.
which is
The
a
21st.
week or two, yeah,
Okay.
later.
Okay.
So if you are good with that, we
Yes.
will get that to you in writing
Yes.
tomorrow.
Yep. That sounds great.
I don't know if it'll be tomorrow
Is
because,
Jason off?
yeah, and I think
Jason's
Mary's
away.
gone too.
Mary's gone, Renee's gone too, isn't she?
Yeah, and so.
Renee is gone.
Yeah.
She did.
So,
So that hits that 60 days.
the
so
problem
it's
is that May 11th,
automatic.
it may be automatically approved then.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
I
you
will-
just get it, yeah.
Work
You
out.
get
I
it
will
behind.
email our city administrator tonight
Okay,
and say, here's what I'm requesting we do, and if they are not able to get that done.
Yep.
Um,
And you got two council members here.
so that's,
Oh,
Where
we
it
need to
is.
vote on this too.
but we do, yes.
So,
So we've had some discussion on the actual motion that we do have on the floor here. And can you read that motion again? Just to make sure we understand what we're voting on. It would be
Did you,
approval.
or do you want me to do it? I can do it. The motion was to approve the request for a conditional use permit that was submitted by John and Sarah Wagner, residing at 309 12th Lane Southwest, for a home occupation business.
Thank you. Any more discussion, or I will call for the vote? All in favor of approving this motion? Aye.
Aye.
Anyone disapproving? The opposite? Thank you very much.
Thanks, Sarah.
I
Yeah.
appreciate your patience
Yes.
while we work through some of our paperwork.
Some of our technical
Issues.
difficulties.
And with that, we are going to be emailing.
Yes.
I'll be emailing tonight our city administrator to get that information out to you in writing.
Yes.
And with that, I will also be contacting and making sure you should be on the next city council meeting.
Yeah, may not have to.
Well, I
See,
mean.
if
you
there's an,
can,
if
but-
there's an automatic approval,
Yeah. after
it
60
goes to
days,
Yeah.
60 days.
okay.
So there you have
Stay
it.
tuned.
Stay tuned and
Good luck.
Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you, guys.
I am looking forward to coming to your boutique.
Yes. thank you.
Absolutely.
We love it. We've been in business for 7 years. We've only lived in Orinoco since we've had Sistine, so it's been great.
Where were you guys
We're looking to-
before that?
We were off of Highway 63 towards Zumbro Falls,
Oh.
where that old gas station is, that Rinky's Corner.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just
Oh.
off that. My father-in-law has farmland, so we were on
Okay.
his land. But then the power lines went through and my husband was like, we're out of here.
Yeah.
Yes.
I remember all
Yeah.
that, so.
Yeah, and Tim and Marlo Zazel that used to live in our house.
Yeah.
We're like really active with the town and we still are in contact with them. They're great humans.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
Appreciate your patience with all of this.
Yeah,
here
sorry,
tonight,
it
so.
took that extra month off.
Thank
that
you,
shit.
It
Sarah.
happens. Thank you, guys.
All right.
Have a good night.
You
Good
too.
night.
All right, folks, we are out of public hearings for this evening, so we can move into the next part of our regularly scheduled agenda here. Next on is new business. We do have a monthly building report, and with that, I will note that it's pretty bare bones. It's,
Yeah, not acceptable.
there are not dollar amounts in there. There's no descriptions. So that will be something that we can send back and let them know that.
This is not
That we're
acceptable.
asking them to build upon this
Yes.
information.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was actually bigger last month. This is even smaller than what it was. It
Yeah.
doesn't give us any details of anything that there is, and
Yeah,
yeah, that's, no.
it's getting worse.
Building, there's 5 residential, but we don't know where they're at, or, yeah, no, it's gotta.
Where
be-
they're at dollars
No,
amount,
yeah,
it's,
Yeah,
yeah.
it's gotta be complete.
And
And they
it's-
have all that information, just so you know, on their computer,
Yep.
Yeah.
you know,
There's
cause
an
if
option
it
to
gets to
print or-
the, yeah, you can just, they have to print the report, or we'll get King
And
to
Mary,
print
to
it,
give
so.
you some background, we are asking, as we're trying to be forward thinking here, looking at city code. There are standard reports. We want to know basically what information's coming through, what's going out. So if we have 17 swimming pool requests, we know that's the part of code we want to look at first. But it also lets us know just what parts and what areas are we seeing more commercial? Are we seeing, when you see 5 building permits, we don't know if it's 5 houses or 5 businesses.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Yeah.
we're looking for information so
I
we
mean,
can
it's-
help with the community
Oh, no, it
and
should
making
be.
sure it's orderly.
And
But
we often
another
get
part of
phone
that-
calls.
Yep.
Well, all you have to do, cause I know that Renee is working on a new computer program that there is, it's got everything listed. All you have to do is just push print and put it
Yep.
here.
So there's
I
some-
mean, it's there, it's already done. But this is trying to keep us from having the information, and we'd like to have that information.
But I do know that there have been some other, there was a request today for a demo permit, so I do know that one did make it onto this. Because that came in while I stopped to get my paper copy.
What was that on the?
It was the garage. They were coming in to get their permit to do the demolition and take down the garage, so,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
Good.
So anyway, people, like I mentioned, I was aware of that one, so that's not on this list. And I don't know if that would show up, where that would show up in other, there's not an other category, but
I'm gonna write demo and it was it was residential, right?
That's right.
residential demo, but I don't think the permit's been issued yet, but the application was at least
Right.
received today.
Yeah, cause it was almost required for them to do that, which is way late, so I'm glad
So,
that
yep.
they're getting that done.
So with that monthly building report, I know we've got some feedback that will go back to Jason on. Report. Next up, unless there's more on that, we can move into B, which would be the one we added, discussion on sports courts.
Yeah. So I would like to just have even, if it's a brief discussion, because we know there are requests for sports court. I guess I call it a cement pad even. And I don't know what we really have in our code about that. People should be able to put a cement slab in their backyard if they wanna put up a pickleball court or a small basketball court or
Does
whatever.
it fall under
They-
sidewalks or patios?
Yeah,
Under a
yeah,
patio, I would think.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. Without a permit, I don't think that calls for a permit to put cement down, do you?
I think it's as long as you don't exceed the percentage of
Right.
coverage.
Exactly.
Well, sometimes we're doing permits too for like roofing or whatever else, just to know about that. I don't think would be that difficult.
Yeah.
Off of it if you had it, but the
Well,
restrictions.
Yeah, and my issue with that is we're taxing the heck out of people. I mean, this is crazy. They're paying property taxes, we're paying taxes on everything, and if they want to put a patio, a cement patio, or some type of a cement pad, for, pickleball or basketball or
If their
whatever it
lot
might
size
be.
allows them to not
If
go
their
over
lot
that
size allows them,
percentage.
let them do it. It's no different than, what happens
Or a
if they
wider
wanna tear their
sidewalk.
lawn up, put new lawn? We're not requiring a permit for that.
No, or if you're pouring a wider sidewalk, you wanna make it more handicap accessible and it's a
Right.
narrow one, now you wanna widen it.
Right, and I personally, I'm just throwing it out there. I don't think we should require a permit for that.
John, what's your comment?
Feel you'd have to either. I really don't. It's a non-structure. It's
Right.
on the ground. It can be busted up and taken out.
Yeah,
It's flat, it's not
yeah.
like a deck where you're 30 inches or more off the ground, so.
As long as it meets setbacks from like fence lines and it's not encroaching on easement or anything like that.
I guess when you use that language, it makes it a little more questionable. When we start talking about setbacks and easements, not every homeowner is gonna be aware of what that is.
Well, it's just
Yeah.
like the percentage though of coverage, where if you can't go more than, for example, 25% of your property size,
Mhm.
you can't buy a lot that's half an acre and put pavement down for the entire half acre.
Right.
Well, the only thing that I'm looking at too is just for us to be aware as a city. So in other words, we have building or burning permits. Doesn't cost anything for
Right.
that. But at least we're aware of what's going on. And I mean, that could be it where it's not charging them that much, but at least to know.
Well, and that
What's
might
going-
be a heads up too, if you've got easements or you've got utility or
Mm-hmm.
you've got anything that might be running underground there that would be interfering with that. Just to have a no cost permit process.
Yeah, I mean, at least we'll know what's going on with the city.
That might be a safeguard against accidentally.
So with that, are you thinking would be, and we haven't gotten to it yet, but we've got a list of things that we know our code doesn't currently address.
Right.
And maybe that would go onto that list of a,
I got that list here somewhere.
Yep. I'm
Okay.
gonna read through it shortly here, so I'm gonna add it as an extra one. That it would be a non-fee permitting process.
You know what? I forgot.
What do we wanna call it, for sports courts or
Yeah.
for? Sports courts or cement pads or?
You know, cement pads, and that way I think it would kind of,
That way they can
Encompass
use it in
everything.
sports court or anything else.
Yeah, I think if you just worded a cement pad, someone could think maybe they could park a
Yeah.
vehicle then, or,
Exactly.
you know, and that, we don't want that.
Because it could be. Like I said, pouring the cement, it could be you've got a very narrow sidewalk and now you want a wide patio and you can,
Yeah.
so. Right now, we're not
let's put it
writing
down
any
as sports
sports
pad.
courts.
Yeah, and leave it that way, and we'll get into it.
Yeah, we could say.
But it's,
sport.
either way, it will be a discussion. Nothing's being
Yeah.
put in code at this point.
Well, and maybe Lori will have a recommendation for the
Right, and
the
I'll
terminology to use.
Yeah, for other cities and
yeah,
what's
see
going
what they're
on,
using
so.
and make sure our code addresses it at some point.
Mhm.
Well, the other thing I forgot to mention was containers.
That will be on the list when we go through my list from.
Okay.
But I think we need to
Yep.
Yeah, we
address
need
that
to
one
address that
quickly.
one.
Well, one of the things that we could do at this point, if we wanted to discuss containers, is that because the agenda has already been approved, we could add an agenda item at this point under other business that would require 2/3 vote to get it on the agenda at this moment in time. So if you want to add that to the agenda, then you can make the motion, and if there's a second, we can do discussion, and with 2/3 of the vote, it is allowable to change the agenda at this point.
So I make a motion to add an additional item under new business. And that item would be, what do we want to call it? Shipping container
Yeah.
usage.
And I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion first and second to add, it would be then letter C under new business, shipping containers.
For E.
E.
Under old business,
E.
No,
Oh, you're
it'd be
talking
under
about
new
one.
business, it would be C.
under new business, it would be
You're correct,
C.
Madam Chair.
What was B?
B is sports courts right now.
Sports courts.
C
Yeah.
would be shipping containers, but under old business, after we get through this, would be
Where was update on EDA? Oh, that's.
That's
old
C.
business.
the C under old business.
Okay, sorry.
Nope, that's all right. So we do have an amendment for our agenda here, an addition that would be new shipping containers, new business shipping container letter C. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, we do have that. So once we're done with our sports courts, we will go into shipping containers. But with sports courts, we're talking here to add that to our list of priorities that we want to have addressed in our new ordinance to just make sure it's crystal clear that it's a non-permitting process for sports courts
Yeah.
of some kind. Okay, because that would, you're right, have, at least you call Gopher one or whatever.
Correct.
So not a bad idea.
Are you building in an existing easement or, yeah?
Right.
You know, at least we've got a record of knowing what's going on,
Right,
and I
right.
think for the city, that's important to have, so.
Yep. Any other discussion or we'll move on to the next? All right, we are now up to our shipping containers.
Well, no, that's under, old business, so we didn't do that, so it's on. We
So
have it
with
on the.
the- I'll read it out. So C right now under new business would be shipping containers. Then we're gonna roll into old business. The WSB project update is A. B is the monthly incoming zoning apps and questions.
No,
C, update from the EDA, and D is the permit approval ERBS application.
okay. that's-
So we do have a little bit longer here. But now we are in shipping containers, so if you would like to take the floor on that one.
Yeah, so, it's been brought to my attention a couple times now, about shipping container usage within city limits. There's one for sure, that has popped up in a neighborhood and there's, one neighbor for sure, if not two. Well, one neighbor had called me about it. And we went to look at it. And it's a bright blue shipping container sitting beside someone's garage on, is it Woodsview? Yeah, Woodsview Lane, I think it is. And it's at the end of the cul-de-sac. And I don't know that I don't know that that's something that our code allows.
Yeah, I think that we were looking at a difference here of what there was, because we put the one next to the fire hall, but that's zoned different than an R1.
I don't know that
situation.
shipping containers, our current code allows them in any residential.
Exactly, which is R1.
It does. I think it's not permitted in residential. I don't even think you can get a conditional use for it, but I think we'd have to look back at the code on that one. I do know,
And that one also is in violation of less than 6 feet from the property line as well.
Right.
Okay, so.
Oh, this is the one on Woodsview?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think with that one, I think that's something that needs to be handed to Jason for enforcement.
Yeah. The other thing too is, if we go back and this kind of brings in Irv's property too, because Irv came to us and asked for a variance that there was to be able to put a container because of his barn being burned down. And we denied him that request for that container. So there was a precedence that was set there for denying him of that, so.
and he was in, yep, not in the districts where it was allowed. It was
Yeah,
based
there
on.
was historical, but again, it was one of those
Extenuating
circumstances
circumstances, yeah.
too, that we said, no, you can't do it, so.
And, so I just gonna say about this one. Oh. The issue that we face though is we really don't have any teeth where we can say you get rid of it within the next 2 or 3 weeks or you're gonna be fined. We really don't have that structure in place.
So is enforcement something that we would be working on with WS?
So
It's-
I'm gonna read through the list, but we have specifically asked for enforcement
Yeah.
procedures to be incorporated into the
Yeah.
code
Mhm.
to.
With fines that are levied and that type of thing? also?
Yep, I've got, we don't have it drafted, but I've given them at least what I've seen and we can, when we get to this section, I can discuss what we've talked about there.
Very good.
But right now, we know it's an issue. Enforcement, we can forward it to Jason. He doesn't have a lot of mechanisms to do a
Unless we
ton with
vote
it.
it in,
Yep,
Yeah, which we can.
which we can,
which we could do.
yeah.
Well,
And there's a couple different ways you can approach it too. So do you do enforcement for zoning? Or do you just do enforcement for all of city code? And if you do it for all of city code, you usually say, here's what our system is of enforcement mechanism. If it's not specified already someplace else, then this is the default. And it could be your first enforcement of what, it could be your dog is barking loud. I'm assuming we've got some barking dogs that don't necessarily fall under planning and zoning, but it could be city code.
Mhm.
code
If
violation.
it's a code violation, a letter can be sent, and maybe if it's, as happens a second time, or if it's something that needed to be cleaned up, if it hasn't been completed or fixed within 30 days, there's a second level, then you go into third, and if it gets to 6 months, maybe there's a bigger fine, you can make it written in a way so that the city doesn't necessarily have to come to council to take action on these things.
Right.
And while that's not necessarily for us to write tonight, or if you wanted to take a stab, but it's probably not anything I would recommend we write tonight. That's probably one way to write it is, if it doesn't already exist in the code, here's the default.
Cause I mean, there's a number of things, and I was also had a call about garbage, you know, junk out in front of places and behind, you know, granted, people are gonna have stuff, but, I mean, for instance, up on our street. There's a lot of junk up there, and there's toilets sitting in the front yard, and it's like, come on.
Well,
You
and so
know.
maybe what we want to do is, ask for a recommendation from Lori for code violation and enforcement. And have that be just something that we could take that was
Pull it out in advance and just
exactly
do it as
something
standalone.
that would be comprehensive enough that it could work with our existing code and also work with the new code that is being developed.
Right,
And it would just be like a plug and play.
yeah.
And I'm already going to be sending her one more of these items, so that non-permitting process for sports courts to add to our list. So with that, I can also say, we prefer to pull out if she's got enforcement procedures to
Yeah, and if she,
put that at the top of the
Yeah,
list.
there was-
And there
And
could
if
be a
she
few
has-
here that we want to look at too.
and if
One of
she
the-
has something that she could get to us before the next meeting and maybe put it back into old business for our June meeting.
Yeah, cause there has to be something in there already, because I know someone from years ago, out across from us in one of the neighborhoods. This was they bought a home over there that was in foreclosure, and the lawn was like a hayfield, literally. And the bank owned it, and the city ended up mowing it a few times.
Mhm.
But the home, well, then the person that came in and bought the home, the city charged them $2,500.
For having maintained the property in between.
Yeah, and it wasn't theirs, but I guess my point is, there's something somewhere where some of these things must
Some of
have
our
teeth
code
already,
Have, if they can
they're
find it.
charges.
But
yeah.
I think there's a big portion that doesn't, and you can probably put a process in place that
Yeah.
would, just if it's. But we know their enforcement is an issue,
It is.
just,
Okay, so just to be clear, I'll take this one to Jason to enforce,
okay,
okay?
Because another one that's on there too, was what we were dealing with the mobile home situation.
and that
Um,
one's already on his plate, I believe, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've gone to Mike Flattery and we've done a lot of work, and Lori's done a lot of work with that also, okay, and so.
Yeah.
CMS is aware and,
All right,
I think we're gonna be okay with that, but at least that's underway.
moving forward, yeah.
Okay.
So Jim, you'll take that one to Jason
Yep.
then, all right, I'm gonna check that off my to-do list. All right, anything more on shipping containers, or we will move to the next section of old business? And that's the WSB project update, so we did have yesterday on the 8th, a small kickoff meeting for our zoning ordinance list, our rewrite of all the code that's out there, so.
The steering committee.
The steering committee,
Mhm.
I'm pretty excited about that, but with that, Lori did come with our zoning ordinance priorities list, and she's taken a number of different things that I think you guys we've all sent on along the way in this process. She listed when we did the RFP. And so I do have a list here of what she has, not in any specific order yet, but interim use ordinance, home occupation ordinance, and some of this stuff we've addressed, but making sure she knows because it has come up. So accessory buildings have come up. Sewer water hookups within that 1 year of availability. Things that we have addressed, firearm sales has come up. Lot sizes. Parking within right of way. This one, enforcement procedures, so so I've got a note here that I'm going to ask her to pull out and prioritize higher. see if we can get drafts of others.
Or do we label that enforcement procedures and fees? Or the fees are in the
That's just,
procedure?
the end of the.
We do have review of fees down there, and I did talk to Jason the other day about making sure with all of the zoning fees at least, they're gonna come to us once a year, so we are at least aware of what they
Yeah.
are. And they're gonna come through the P and Z and then get filtered back to you guys.
I'm thinking that we may want to designate though that it is enforcement procedures and fines.
Oh, fines, yeah.
Yes, rather than
Fines, not
fees.
Yep. Parking, mobile homes, cannabis, availability online, having application packets and Q&As, review of fees, shipping containers in R1, business permit charges, this would be in the code of ordinances and not the zoning ordinance necessarily. Business license code and cost, again, this would be in the code of ordinance and not the zoning ordinance. Signs, and then just tonight we've added to my list here, non-permitting process for sports courts.
Hmm.
Now with this is the list she's gotten for priorities. The two where I mentioned this would not be in the zoning. They've been brought up, so she's got them on her list. All the other ones are ones that would fall into zoning, and that's what our RFP is written. So of the, how thick the city code is, this much is the zoning. So that's the part. We're gonna take it in chunks, and that's the part we did the RFP is to work on the zoning part of it. But that doesn't stop them, and they do support other communities. So if that's something that we are interested, Jason was also at the meeting yesterday. That's something that we're interested in, want to explore, that is an option as well. So just so everybody is clear, it's not necessarily zoning and there would be a cost involved, but they are able to support that as we rewrite the code. So the other thing that came out of that meeting was they looked at the table of contents. So last year we had asked for just a copy of all the codes in a document. We weren't able to get one, so we did go off the website and were able to at least get an idea of what our code was and went through lots of pages, merged them into a Word document. There's still a lot of ordinances and other things that haven't been incorporated, but at least we have a starting point for that. And it's what, 500, 600 pages long is the starting point.
Bedtime reading.
Yeah, so if you're looking for a doorstop. But with that, she took a look at our table of contents for all of the city code. And so this is just the table of contents alone is 15 pages long, 16 pages long, or something like that. That's just the table of contents. And this is our code today. And it includes the zoning table of contents as well as the other sections. And what she did give us was a proposed Orinoco table of contents that would basically cut it down to about 5 pages for the entire city code. And with that, it would streamline a lot of what we're doing for zoning into more easily digestible, especially by the public, especially by our city staff and all of us as we're trying to decipher the code that was written before the iPhone was invented.
Yeah.
So,
And I'll add something to that. One thing I think we should really look into as a city, and there's not a huge charge behind it. On our website, we should, we're a Microsoft shop now. We should incorporate the use of copilots and point at our city code and allow people to ask questions. And I can show you guys how easy it is. I just created one today, create a bot that you just ask questions. How do I get a building permit? Or can I use a shipping container in my yard? And that bot, looking right at our code, would bring you back the answer. It would look at it, it would use it as, it's not even a large language model, but it would look at that as a model and it would spew out your information and it would give you the citations in the code that they could go right to and read. I mean,
so I do
That's
know in
pretty
talking
standard.
with Jason yesterday, he was surprised that we did not have a Word doc. And so I had ended up emailing him my version, my old version that we have from last night. So he's got that. He's got my comments on, here's the other ones that would need to be incorporated into that. I did let him know with the RFP, when we had that out, that I did need to provide a copy of the Word doc to WSB. They had asked for it, and when I checked with the city and with Stantec back in, I believe it was February, I'd have to go double check my dates, but I had emailed them just saying, do they have, because this one I had done back in August.
Mhm.
So with that, I had emailed it to the city had made us all copies, so we all had a hard copy at that point. So I asked them if they had it in a Word doc so that we could forward it to our vendor we're working with, and I was told they didn't have it in a Word doc. And Stantec also did not have our code, our zoning support did not have it in a Word doc, so I took my one to at least give our vendor WSB a starting point and sent them that one, so that's what they've been looking through, because to go through our website, we would have had to double the cost of the
Oh, yeah.
RFP. It's just hours and hours it took us to even get it to that point.
What did you just download a PDF? and
When I did it?
Convert it?
No, she,
Oh, no, when I put it into a Word doc, I went to every individual page on our website and copied and pasted into a
Oh
Word
my
doc.
God.
Oh, yeah, that's the only way to get it out
Or
there right
six
now.
hundred and some
You
pages.
couldn't download it as a?
It's not downloadable, that's the problem.
Oh, I've got PDFs of some of it.
Well, some of the ordinances that have been passed in the 6 or 8 years are out there as separate documents and not incorporated into the city code. So
Okay.
when you're going through this, I don't know which ones and which ones haven't been incorporated. I went to, when I click on it, this is what it tells me is the current city code,
Yeah,
and that's in that Word doc. So it's,
yeah, we need a bot. We need a bot so
Well,
they can
and
just
I-
ask questions. So once we get there,
yes, so if
I'll
when we
show-
get to the
I'll
point,
set
and I
it up.
believe Jason wants to make it a priority to get a PDF, take this one that I've got, get it updated, get it into a PDF and get that posted out on the website. I believe that is a priority of his right now. Because I did explain the struggle that not just us, but residents and developers, builders, everybody is having, trying to understand what's out there.
yeah, it'd be
And
so
so-
easy just to put a Q&A.
But with that,
Awesome.
as we go through, one of the things with that application packet and Q&A, I did mention yesterday at our steering committee meeting that there's some towns, some big, some smaller, that have a process right out there where it's, you don't even say it's code, it's I want to do this, and you
Yeah.
click on it and it will refill whatever permit,
Yeah.
type in what it is.
That's
And
exactly what I was.
there are
saying.
services that you can pay for and do that will incorporate, and if it's a burning permit or whatever, maybe it's if we ever get that non-permitting process for
Yeah.
sports courts,
You-
it would log it, you pay your fee online if there is a
And
fee,
print
and
your
or
permit.
print your permit right there, and it would log it and feed it right into the city systems with giving you guys back some free time,
Yeah.
and, I mean, there are things that we can do, but I think our first step right now is
Yeah.
to get this code going. So just to give you an idea though of the sections, I'm just gonna read through the section headers and I'll make sure you all get a copy of this and it gets in our packets.
Okay.
But the first section is just title and application. That is title, purpose, relationship to the comprehensive plan. Then it's rules and definitions. General provisions, which would be applications, private agreements, that's your conditional use. Administration, and that administration is where all your enforcement procedures are gonna come in for P and Z. Zoning districts would be number 5. 6 would be residential districts, looking at R1 and R2s. 7 would be all commercial districts. And then under commercial districts, what Lori had said is, within commercial districts, you've got your B1, your B2, your B3. And your M1, which would be like manufacturing, light industrial. But she said there is instead of a PUD district, so a planned unit development district where you get into all the agreements, there is an option that some towns are going to where they call it a development flex district. Now, this is not one that we said, yes, go with it right now. We asked for her yesterday to send us give us a couple examples of real life towns that have this in use right now. So what this would be is if you have a developer that wants to come, instead of going through and trying to do all the development, and you're coming to 17 different hearings along the way. What a development flex district would do, would actually, you come through, they present their plan, they're not necessarily doing their contract, they're not doing their negotiation. What it is this is what we want, you get it used, it's a conditional use permit, basically that similar process. This is what they're allowed to do. Now, if they come later and want to deviate it, they want to add more units, they want to change certain flows that have been approved. Now they gotta come back to P and Z.
Mhm.
But other than that, if they go with what their original request was, then they're off.
It doesn't even come to us, we just see it on the list of permits, right?
Um,
Is that what you're
no,
saying?
you guys would still get a conditional use, basically, it would come, we'd do the recommendation, and once that first one goes and is approved and the permit's cut, then
Okay.
they can go forward with that and start, get their development agreement, all the other legal stuff that has to be done, but the actual layout. So, but like I said, that's how it was explained to me. She's gonna get us some more examples because I'm not sure yet on the steering committee, and you guys are also welcome to go to those meetings too, if that's the route we wanna go, but she said it gives you the flexibility to do some of this, so you don't have 17 public hearings or, all these additional meetings, where you can still keep things within boundaries. And it gives that development flex some, is the term they used. So it's a different concept than what we have in our code today, but it is one out there that I thought, well, we should at least entertain the thought and listen to what they're saying. This is our consultant we have hired to help us write our code, and it's a recommendation that they're coming to us with. So hopefully we'll have some more examples. But with that, we have 2 more steering committee meetings that have now set up. They're via Zoom. One is May 30th at 6 p.m. and one will be June 27th at 6 p.m. So they will both be done via Zoom. We will have some more drafts. And what they're trying to do is they're gonna take this first part of code and try and come up with a draft that we can discuss, hopefully by this May 30th one. That will go out to all of P and Z as well as the steering committee. But at least you guys have an idea of what we've got going on that process. But yeah, May 30th, 6 p.m., June 27th at 6 p.m. And then they are looking as well at the public engagement piece, either doing something maybe during Gold Rush, possibly T-ball, if Age Friendly Orinoco is going to do something, trying to make sure it's not just a standalone event, that we do have the ability to put up a booth or, even put up a couple signs that say, hey, here's what we're thinking. And as people walk by, drop your marble into whichever jar you think looks the best. So we could get some public opinion to weigh in on this. That's not terribly wrong. Questions? I know that's a lot. I've got a copy of this if you guys want to look at afterwards as well, and we can I'll scan it in and we'll get copies to the whole city if we could get that up there. We'll add it to our minutes or add it to the website and get it posted. So yes, things are moving forward with WSB. Lori was good to talk with yesterday, and so
Sure.
she is very sharp. But yeah, this is our current table of contents going to that, so. Yep. Questions for me on that particular meeting? I know I've taken up a lot of time, so. Update, the next one, letter B, monthly incoming zoning applications and questions. We did not necessarily get a report or a list from the city, so that is something we've requested in the past. I do know, just from having been in the office today, we did get that one on a demo permit. And I believe we've had I did forward a question I had received in a conversation about sports courts to Jason, so. Those are the ones I am aware of. All right, we will move on to EDA. And this afternoon, I did come in early. We did have actually Rebecca Charles here from the CEDA, who is helping with the EDA. And so she did let me know that yesterday there was a meeting, and I don't know if you guys as council were involved in that or not. But there was a meeting yesterday with the new potential development that's going in over by the Gas and Go.
Mhm.
So it would have been Ryland. And the EDA was there. I don't know,
You weren't aware of it.
I was not aware of it,
I
and I
wasn't
know
aware of it
last
either.
month we had asked and talked about anytime there are development meetings to have somebody from P and Z. So I know I was not notified of it.
I was not notified either.
But fortunately, I happened to catch Rebecca and she let me know that there had been a meeting
When was it?
yesterday.
Do you know what time it was?
I do not know. I believe it was in the middle of the day and it was via Zoom. I don't have a definite time on that.
Do we have any minutes or know what it was about?
I have my notes that I got from her, so there's
So
not,
their meeting was not recorded.
I don't believe it was. So the EDA update that I did get was that it included Mike Ubane. I don't think I said his
Ubani.
Ubani. He was there on the financial side. There is a draft development agreement from our city attorney. Was it, oh no, actually 1:30 today. I did have a note there, 1:30 today. Hamilton Development was there. Joe Palin was on the call, and is it Ari from the Hamilton group?
Yeah.
So that particular group, and I think she had also said that our mayor was there, so. But I know that was our direction last month, that any type of development conversation, we have to at least
Take place
somebody,
with us,
a
yeah.
representative from P and Z.
Right.
And so I know I did not get that request, and I don't know that anybody else here did, because the list she read off, there was nobody that I knew from P and Z. So-
We'll have to address that with
So that-
Ryland.
Yeah, absolutely, because we were trying to isolate him, you know, just
Well,
with
and-
what was going on, what's.
We do know that the mayor's manual from the state there, from our League of Minnesota Cities, I got so many different companies that we work with in organizations, but they do recommend that, especially in a weak mayor system, that the mayor is just one vote, just not necessarily even to be involved much in zoning. There is a lot of risk there, so.
Right. Well, and all transparency and all truth up front, our mayor has no more power than any one council member. He is just a member of city council. The only extra authority that our mayor has, and any other city like us, is taking charge of the meeting. And if there's a situation where, whatever you call it, not natural disaster, but,
On emergency.
what's that?
It's
Emergency.
emergency powers.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
That's the only time that our mayor has any more authority than any one single member of the city council. Our mayor is not a city, or he's not a strong mayor.
so I did look, and I
not-
think there's actually only 4 cities in the state that run on
That are
a strong
chartered.
mayor.
That's right.
So
Our
you're
mayor
looking
is
at
not.
Duluth, Minneapolis, St. Paul, and St. Cloud. That's
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But with that, so there was a meeting today, so I don't have minutes. I did ask Rebecca when she does send out notes to add me as a CC. Cause it sounds like she does generally put notes together on that, so draft development agreement though from the city attorney. They met at 1:30 today, and those couple people there were in that meeting, so I know I did not get notification, but
Are the people that called that meeting, are they aware that they are supposed to bring in somebody from planning and
I
zoning?
don't know, and I would think that would be a conversation with Jason. Because he was here last month at P and Z to know that that was what should be
That
getting
was-
done. That's the process to be followed.
Put on the agenda.
So with that, that's the update for EDA. And I did ask them, and I did make sure Rebecca knows as well about the May 30th and the June 27th steering committee meetings too, that are out there. So she's dialed in with a lot of other small towns in the area and just comes here one day every so often. Was it one day a week?
One day a week.
But she's, I think, involved with 3 or 4 other small towns, and so she also has access to their information, how they run their P and Z, their codes, so she also has. And I did tell her when we get to that development section, that might be something good for her to also review with us, see what she sees elsewhere. But yeah, EDA, that was letter C. We did have a letter D, unless anybody has something more on EDA. D is permit approval IRFs application. So any update on that?
IRF went to, the state statutes and got a hold of the state. And the state said that, there's no problem, he should have a permit to be able to build
So the
his
permit-
garage, and so that should be done. He was caught in between because he was denied the permit from Renee. And he was trying to go through and do a variance. And he was kind of confused on what to do with that because Phil had been through everything that we had been worked with in the past. And then he found the state statutes that gave him permission to be able to do that. So that's just new and we'll see what happens next week, but
Okay,
hopefully he'll get that taken care of and we can get him going.
So that's moving on to the agenda of the city council. On the
And it should be
23rd.
going back to Renee
Hopefully it
and,
just
and
gets
to
issued
get
and-
done, so it should be issued and be able to move
Just an
ahead, and
FYI.
that way it's a regular permit,
Good.
so.
good,
I'm glad to hear that.
So I
Yeah,
would
that's
too, so.
very good update. Well, hopefully next month when we get the list of permits and questions or applications, we see Irv on there, so. And that was our last item under old business.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor of adjourning, I have a motion on the floor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are done at 8:36. And you can then push stop the square.
The Zoom meeting.